Hello and welcome once again to the Windy City's finest on location at Hometown. He's Mac, I'm Perry, and this is
Adam.
Yes, thank you so much for having us here.
Thanks for coming.
And thank you for agreeing to meet with us.
Absolutely.
First thing we'll do before jumping into some icebreaker games, if you could just give us a little bit of a broad strokes overview of where we are and what it is you do, that would be amazing.
Sure. So we're in my restaurant, which is called Hometown. The formal name of the business is Hometown Culinary, but we refer to the restaurant as Hometown. I own it with my sister. We opened it back in late October of 2024. We're in Medicine Hat, Alberta, and we're right kind of in the downtown core. Beautiful building that we did a significant renovation to, and we do what we consider to be upscale comfort food. So still pretty familiar and approachable, but we just try to put a little bit of a higher end twist on things.
Nice, that's awesome, and I cannot wait to learn more about that in the future segments. But right now, we'll just jump into some icebreaker games. Our first thing is trivia. How are you with trivia typically?
It depends a little bit on the topic, but
Okay.
usually pretty good. I play in a league sometimes, so
wow.
you know.
Okay, you might be the first person we met that plays in a league.
Oh, really?
I'm not gonna lie.
Is that right?
But still, there's no pressure. No pressure. So I'll just dive right in with our first piece of trivia for you, Adam.
Sure.
On July 12th, 1886, the all-time recorded high in Medicine Hat was approximately A, 42 degrees Celsius, B, 47 degrees Celsius, C, 37 degrees Celsius, or D, 39 degrees Celsius.
I'm gonna go with 42.
Yeah, you got it. That's
nice.
That's what we learned, and yeah, it's awfully high.
That's awfully high.
Yeah. Awesome. We will move swiftly along here to our this or that in our lovely little hat here.
All right.
And I'll let you do the honors. Just pick one, read it out, and then set it aside, and we'll just get to know what your preferences are.
Sure. Oh, I only have one. I only have
An old tangle.
Pay for parking or risk it?
Ooh.
Oh, I'm generally a rule follower.
Yeah.
So I'd have to say pay.
You know, that's good to know, given that you are a chef, so that you like to follow the rules. I appreciate that.
Right.
I think if I can, I will do everything in my power to find a spot that doesn't require paying. But if I have to, I will probably pay for the parking and follow the rules as well. So
That's super easy in this town. There's not a lot of paid parking, but in bigger centers, I get it.
Yeah.
And I would often drive through residential streets to try to do the same. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, let's see what we get next. Fiction or nonfiction?
Oh, probably nonfiction. Yeah, I'm like a politics and history and kind of space guy, so I love reading those kinds of things. I do like a lot of fiction, but I'd probably pick non if I had to choose.
Yeah, I think I am in the same boat with you. I have like a select few things that I really love that are fiction, but generally speaking, I also love the nonfiction. So we're very much on the same wavelength. I like it.
All right.
I'll throw it over to you.
Okay. Flowers or chocolate? I think chocolate every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. If chocolate is in the mix, then it's always chocolate for me.
Nice. Yeah. I think I would also go with chocolate. Part of me wants to say flowers for some reason. Maybe it's because my mom has a super green thumb, so I'm like trying to take care of more houseplants or not let them die as much, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, this maybe would be mine. Awesome. We'll move swiftly along to our tumbling towers over here.
Okay.
Quick review of the rules. Can't take from the top three. Once you take a block, you have to set it on top.
Yep.
And each block corresponds to a question.
Okay.
So I'll let you do the honors, and you can totally just poke around and see what's loose.
Yeah, see what's loose. Oh, not that one. Oh, that one looks pretty
Nice.
good. Now, that's question 10.
10.
Yeah.
Awesome. What's your favorite season?
Fall, autumn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find summer way too hot. I do like winter, but I think fall is beautiful.
It's like the sweet spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that I'm super curious. Does that inspire your cooking or work in any way? Or?
Yeah, you know what, it kind of does.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily why I answered, but I think I do gravitate towards a lot of those kinds of flavors, you know, the kind of earthy flavors and and squash and root vegetables and those kinds of things. So I think there is an element to that, yeah.
Oh,
Okay, well,
awesome.
you knocked some of this one out already.
Yeah,
so
go
I'm gonna
for
take
it.
that one, and it's number 16.
16. Who is someone who inspires you?
Oh man, yeah, I find inspiration from a lot of people. I think at the moment, my mom, especially because we've spent a lot more time together in the last sort of year or two than I did for the whole time I lived in Toronto. So I feel like I've reconnected with her a little bit, but she's retired from being a business owner, and I was really inspired by the way that she and my dad, when he was alive, ran the business because their approach was kind of unique. They ran a furniture store that was arguably the most expensive, but also had the best quality in the city. And they were really kind of like stuck on this idea that they're not going to compromise what they do. They picked their lane and they stayed in it. And I'm really inspired by that. And so my mom continues to be that way. You might describe her as being stubborn, but I don't think that's actually the case. I think she's very clear on who she is and what she wants, and I really admire that quality.
Awesome. Great. That's all the time we have for this segment.
Okay.
So yeah, thank you so much for your time and insight.
Absolutely.
This has been the Windy City's Finest on Location. He's Mac, I'm Perry, and this is
Adam.
Great. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Windy City's Finest on Location here at Hometown. I'm Mac, he's Perry, and this is
Adam.
Yeah. So I enjoyed the first segment with Perry, Adam. I'm getting to know you a little bit.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So this or that, and the tumbling towers and all that.
Yeah.
But this portion we really like to get into kind of like your journey as an artist, as a chef, your cooking journey and career.
Sure.
And learn a bit about Hometown as well. Looking forward to the conversation. So
Awesome.
I guess to start, I know you kind of mentioned at the top of the first segment, but yeah, tell me a little bit about Hometown.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I mentioned before, we consider it to be an upscale comfort restaurant. We're trying to take a little bit of a unique spin on familiar items. And that's kind of the inspiration behind it. I spent a lot of my career in Toronto, so I've got probably some influences that maybe some folks that have spent their career here wouldn't have, and maybe some exposure to some other, like just kind of ethnic foods and that kind of thing. So I try to incorporate that, and I kind of said that the menu is a bit of a love letter to my career. I'm a little over 25 years into the culinary world, so it's kind of a culmination of a lot of the things that I got to experience in my past, and it's really cool to be able to just kind of have free reign to do whatever I want with the menu.
Awesome. Absolutely, yeah. What sort of things are on the menu?
Well, it ranges from the very kind of accessible and basic. We do a really good burger. We have a great Caesar salad. Those kinds of things that are really familiar. And then we step a little bit outside with a lot of our features and some of our kind of more unique things that we do, like Sunday dinners, where people have the opportunity to experience a blind tasting menu once a month, and that kind of thing. And then we change the menu 3 times a year as well. So there's always the opportunity to refresh things a little bit and just kind of put a little bit of a spin. So some of the stuff that maybe is a bit more unique is like we have a pulled duck poutine on the menu right now with brown butter, snap peas, and like a demi-glaze, and then a pear and red wine reduction. I don't think that's something that you'd find on a typical Medicine Hat menu. No. So that's where we get to be a little bit more adventurous.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. That's great. Nice. Oh, yeah. I guess we can kind of like go back to the beginning of, because you and your family grew up in Medicine Hat, right?
Yes, born and raised.
Yeah. Tell me about growing up in Medicine Hat.
Sure. I think I had a pretty normal childhood, honestly. Like, my parents worked really hard. They worked other jobs, and then when I was a teenager, they opened up a furniture store, and so they went into business for themselves, and obviously that was a little bit of a financial risk, but also it involved a lot of work for the whole family, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I played hockey and baseball when I was a kid, and I had a really close-knit friend group, and it's a fairly small town. I think it was only about 40,000 people when I was a kid. So it really had that small town feel where, you'd play street hockey in your neighborhood and you knew everybody that lived nearby and that kind of thing. We formed a really close-knit community.
Nice. That sounds great. Yeah. And when did you start cooking?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's kind of multiple answers there because, as a kid, I'd sit on the counter while grandma was making dinner or mom was making dinner or something to that effect. So I started to get a little bit interested. My mom worked some shift work when I was little. So we had the running joke that if Dad was cooking, it was like, pizza or Dairy Queen. But somewhere along the way, I kind of learned to make like mac and cheese and those kinds of things, right? But at 14, I got a job at a family restaurant, and I quickly took the interest in the cooking side of things. I started out as like a dishwasher and busboy, but yeah, pretty soon I was really interested in like, oh, what does that taste like, and why do you put those things together and that kind of thing. So started to get a little bit inspired by it. And when I moved to Toronto, it just opened up a whole different world. There's so many different cultures, and there's such a vibrant food scene out there. And I got the opportunity to try some stuff that I just never even knew existed, right? And that just opened everything up for me.
Nice. And at what point did you move to Toronto? Like, how old would you have been?
So I was 21. It was 2004. And I was in a band. We'd lived in Calgary for a little while. We'd played a lot around here in Southern Alberta, and we wanted to try to put our cards on the table and see if we could make it big, which, didn't pan out. I still play music now, but not in quite the same way. It's a little bit more of a casual thing. But yeah, we really tried hard to make ourselves big. But the thing is that being a musician doesn't pay the bills, right? So had to learn a different skill along the way. So I was always in kitchens when I was in Toronto, and there's a flexibility built into that as well, right? Because a lot of people that are kind of like artists or kind of in that space often work in restaurant industry jobs as well. So usually you could get time off if you needed to for a gig and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. Like, how long were you like trying to make it as a musician in Toronto?
God. The better part of 10 years,
Oh, wow.
I think. Yeah, in various bands. The one that I moved out there with, we kind of parted ways, and I found myself in a different one. Did a little bit of touring, opened for some bigger artists and that kind of thing. Recorded a couple of albums, and then started to play in some cover bands as more like a weekend thing for a lot of years. And yeah, it's somewhere along the way it just kind of became apparent that probably wasn't going to be a career, not one that could sustain me anyways. So, but at the same time, I was really starting to get myself immersed in that Toronto restaurant scene, and I'd found myself in some really good roles and had some leadership positions and that kind of thing. And I think that's really where it ignited a bit more of a passion for me.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you realized that, and that you had that passion for cooking as well.
Yeah.
And didn't quite give up on the music, of course.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess because you were in Toronto for like 16 years, right? Or
17.
17 years, yeah, quite a while. Yeah, let's talk a bit more about that experience. You mentioned you're at different restaurants and being exposed to different cuisines. Yeah, what sort of restaurants were you working at in Toronto?
Man, it runs the gamut. Anywhere from like a kind of greasy spoon style diner all the way to casual fine dining, catering, breakfast joints, pubs, I mean, anywhere in between. Along the way though, I did find myself as the executive chef at a college. Not teaching a culinary program, but just running all of the culinary operations from a student bar, a burrito shop, a cafe, and then all of their catering operations as well. And so a big team of students, a huge commercial kitchen, and a lot of volume. I mean, we sat, I think, 160 people in the bar, and the burrito shop would be lined up down the atrium, like that kind of thing. So really got to flex some creative muscle, but also really had to work on the organization and the leadership part of it, because I had young staff that were largely inexperienced. And much to the annoyance of my staff now, I still tell stories from that experience. Yeah.
So that was kind of a shift for you and responsibility and.
Yeah, I think that's when I really started to get into sort of like the management and business side of things. When you're a sous chef and a line cook, it's very like process oriented. But once you get up into the executive chef role, there's still an awful lot of hands-on and there's an awful lot of food, obviously, but yeah, the management and business side of things really comes into it, and that's where you start to have to deal with managing people's personalities and hiring and firing and making those financial decisions and costing and budgeting and dealing with clients for catering and all those kinds of things that maybe people don't think about necessarily when they think of a chef, because they if your point of reference is something like Hell's Kitchen, where it's just like Gordon Ramsay yelling at people about the duck sauce, like there's a lot more to it than that, and maybe people don't often realize that,
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, at what point was that when you were in Toronto, roughly, that you were at the school?
So that would have been about 2010, 2011, and I spent 8 years there. And then I was actually kind of headhunted by Shopify, the big tech company. So they were opening up, renovating a building to open up their corporate headquarters in Toronto, and they were doing a business dining program. And they wanted somebody to kind of essentially run that program and feed all their staff. So that became 17 chefs working under me, 1,000 people a day, breakfast and lunch, and we had very strict guidelines around like not being able to repeat menus. We had to have vegan, gluten-free, and all kinds of different kind of dietary options for people. So it really forced us to think on our feet, because you could have one idea for one item that you wanted to do, but then it was, how do we make it vegan? How do we make it gluten-free? How do we conform to, kind of various like religious accommodations and those kinds of things, right? So yeah, really had to get creative and start to reach out to different suppliers and think about how to make things all kind of like equitable still, if that makes sense, right? You couldn't have somebody who was vegan feeling like they were second class because they weren't getting access to the same kind of food as somebody else, right? So yeah, so there was almost like a philosophical shift there that was kind of cool.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. You hadn't really experienced that before?
No, not quite in that capacity. I think around that time was when people were coming in with maybe more prevalent kind of allergies and dietary restrictions, and but there was a little bit of a shift right around that time, probably in that like 2018 sort of time period where it just kind of became the default setting that you, of course, we have these kinds of options for people, right? It was no longer an annoyance. It was no longer cumbersome. It was like, yeah, of course we have that for you. We're, here's what we're proud to offer, as opposed to here's this thing that's just kind of sitting in the corner just in case, right?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, that word equitable makes total sense. Yeah, I agree. Just that food just got better over time because there was more demand, and
Yep, exactly.
And even non-vegetarian people like vegetarian food, and
yeah, absolutely. And there was a shift in the commercial side of it too, right? When you'd start to see things labeled gluten-free in grocery stores that maybe you'd never even thought of before. And just trying to really kind of keep that accessibility for people.
That's great. Yeah. And I guess like what came next in your culinary career?
Well, COVID,
Okay.
as it hit everybody, right?
Yeah.
And I was really fortunate that the company at the time took really good care of my team. And I mean, they're a global company, so I speak pretty highly of the way that they treated everyone, because they paid the entire staff for a pretty long period of time, and they were really fair to everybody. And then I kind of bounced around a little bit, and it was a bit of a transitional time in my life. I was married and I'd been divorced at this point, so in a way I was kind of starting over, both professionally and personally. So I was in a production kitchen for a little while. I was back at a university for a little while. Just trying to find something that was providing a certain amount of stability. I ended up at an all-girls private school as the executive chef, which again allowed me to be really creative and have a lot of fun. But it was just a time in my life where I was not ready to start over in Toronto. I was in my late 30s at the time, and I really needed to slow down, I guess. Like, the pace of Toronto is crazy, the expense is crazy, right? So it started to become a lot more appealing to move back to Medicine Hat and own a house for the first time. Just those things that aren't really accessible in a place like Toronto. And so I started to kind of crave that.
And then what kind of finally brought you back here?
Well, I called my sister in kind of fall of 2020 and said, I think quite literally, I said, hey, if I moved back in a year and opened a restaurant, or wanted to open a restaurant, would you do it with me? And she didn't even hesitate and said, yep, absolutely. So it was like, okay, well, if you don't have to think about it, then neither do I. So let's start making these plans. And so that's where the concept of Hometown started to grow. We settled on a name. We engaged a designer to start thinking about a brand identity. And then once I had actually, purchased a house and made the plans to move back and tied up any kind of loose ends I had in TO, then it became about trying to find the proper location and really lock down what our business plan was, and all those kind of things about like how are we going to fund this thing, and just those kinds of things, right? The very kind of practical conversations had to start to happen, but it definitely just started with a vision of this is what we are, this is what we're not, and let's go from there.
I'm curious. I know your sister's here, but what's it like you and your sister working together? How does your relationship work that way?
Well, she's here, so I have to say no. No, actually, genuinely, it's been great. We've, save for when we were like teenagers, we've always gotten along really well. And honestly, I think that we really complement one another really well. I have a lot of things that I'm very good at, and I have a lot of things that I'm very bad at. And it's almost as if we fill each other's like gaps that way. The strengths that Jen has are often my weaknesses, and vice versa. So I really think that we complement each other well, and she does such a fantastic job of the guest experience, interacting with people genuinely. I've spent a lot of my career behind a door and in a kitchen, so my default setting is not to be the most outgoing person. Whereas, she spent her whole life here, so she knows. The joke is that she knows just about everybody in the city, and honestly, that's kind of true sometimes when people walk in the door. So yeah, she does a great job with the aesthetic. She does a great job with the guest experience, and then I try as much as I can to match that with the caliber of the food.
Yeah, it's a good pairing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, there was one thing I was curious about. I'm on your website, like you have like a bio, and then like the very first sentence in the bio is like, I don't consider myself a chef.
Right.
And I found that so interesting that you would have that as the first sentence of your bio. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the bio kind of goes on to say that I'm like a renegade plumber and and the person that rehangs the shelves that fell off the wall or whatever it is, right? But I didn't go to culinary school, so that's one of the big things. Like, there's a point, I think, that you get into a career where you're in management positions or those leadership positions, and you've got a team working under you, where it's appropriate to call yourself a chef just simply because of what you do, right? What your day looks like and what your role is and what your salary kind of dictates that you're responsible for. But at the same time, there's always been a little bit of that imposter syndrome of like, I'm not, on paper, I'm not really qualified to do this. Do you know what I mean? I happen to be pretty good at it, and I've been doing it a long time, but really, technically, I don't have that paper. Like, I don't have that qualification, right? I couldn't call myself a doctor, but I feel mostly comfortable calling myself a chef. And then every now and then I go, am I really, right? And so that's and again, when we talked a little bit about how more of that, like the business and the management side of the food industry, the more responsibility that I take on with that, the more that I start to kind of joke around about not being a chef or not feeling like a chef. Also, I don't have a lot of the formality of it. I don't insist that people call me chef. There's definitely times when that's appropriate, depending on what we're doing. If we have like kind of a catering thing, or if there's we had a guest chef in this weekend to do a kitchen takeover, and so maybe it's appropriate to use more formal titles in those scenarios, but for the most part, I don't want people to call me that. And yeah, so there's a lot wrapped up in that sentence and in that kind of sentiment. Yeah.
I would, I'd say for sure, yeah. And I guess, like, did you ever, when did you not feel like you were an imposter? Did it ever go away, that imposter syndrome, or?
Well, it comes and goes.
Yeah.
I think that the more that people have good experiences, and the more that things resonate, like what we're doing resonates with people, the more that that kind of breaks down, and I feel like, okay, you know what? Yeah, of course I know what I'm doing. I mean, I'm well into this career by now. But yeah, it creeps up every now and then. Every now and then I have an idea where I go, I don't know if this is going to work, and then it's kind of like, oh man, in the back of my mind, right? And then 9 times out of 10 it works, or at least it's passable, right?
Yeah.
so then I kind of feel good about it again.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. And I feel like it also fits in with the vibe I'm getting of like you mentioned, family and having those lunches together and things, and making it more approachable, and it's not.
Well, and collaboration is huge on in this place, and I love to take suggestions from my crew, and even if they're familiar or what I would maybe condescendingly call like pedestrian, there's always a way to step it up a little bit. So somebody will come with an idea, and I'll go, hey, you know what? That's a great start. What if we do this, or just twist it this way? And often we arrive at something that we're really proud of in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have time for like one more question, but we try to end on. Yeah, I think. So what we ask people is like, how has your artistic practice like changed your everyday life? So I guess like, how has cooking or owning a restaurant kind of changed your everyday life?
Yeah, I put an awful lot more time into this place than I ever have in other aspects of my career. I mean, obviously, that's just part and parcel with being an owner of the business. So, yeah, there is that. I mean, this is kind of like life consuming in a way, but it's also just my identity, right? And I think that that's really cool. Like I define myself now very much as this is what I do, and this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I'd said, I'm never going to have another job interview again, or don't have to worry about my resume, right? This is it. This is what I'm going to do, and there might be other opportunities down the line. There might be other locations or other concepts that we want to open, but Hometown is me. It's us, and that's what we're going to do now. So it's cool. It's cool to have it wrapped up, and I think that's a big change because it was a job at one point, and now it's literally my whole life. So
Great. I think that's wonderful. I'm glad you've arrived at that. And yeah,
me too.
I think it's a good place to end on. So yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation, Adam. Thanks so much for chatting.
Awesome.
Yeah, and this has been the Windy City's Finest on Location, of course, here at Hometown. I'm Mac. He's Perry, and this is
Adam.
We'll be right back.
Hello and welcome once again to the Windy City's Finest on Location here at Hometown. He's Mac, I'm Perry, and this is
Jen.
Yes, I'm so excited that we're finally getting to feature you and see you on camera here. You've been patiently waiting off to the side, which I appreciate greatly. Yeah, can you tell us what your role is here at Hometown?
So Adam and I own Hometown together. I am front of house, so general manager, and he is chef. So I kind of take everything from the kitchen forward and make sure that everything's running smoothly.
Yeah, I think that one of the ways Adam kind of described it was sort of that guest experience.
Yeah.
Has that always been like a thing for you that you value, or tell me a bit about that?
Definitely. So my entire career has always been customer service in any role that I've done, whether it's been in management or anything. So yeah, I've always been very much talking to the people, making sure everything's exactly how they need it in whatever role I've been in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another thing Adam mentioned was just that idea that like, everybody that walks through the door. Is that true?
I mean, it feels true a lot of the time. So as he had said, our parents owned a furniture store for about 22 years, and I worked there. I mean, technically the whole time I had been there, but 15 years since being back from university. And so I did get to know a lot of the people in the community. And being that I had only moved away for school for 2 years. So, 36 years in Medicine Hat is definitely, I feel like I know everybody. Yeah. So.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that we'll do a bit more of a tour here and get an idea for the decor. But my understanding is that like, those roots here is like, that's really a part of the design and everything.
Yeah.
What else can you tell me about that?
So I really wanted it to feel like you were dining in a friend's home, your grandma's house, something like that, where you feel like you can sit and just enjoy yourself for hours, whether it be true or you have somewhere to go after dinner. But I definitely wanted it to be comfortable. I wanted there to be elements of Medicine Hat, elements of our family, just to show the roots. Like our roots in this city run very, very deep. So yeah.
That's awesome. One of the things that caught our eye when we first came up here is this piece. What can you tell us about this?
So there's not a lot that I know about the actual stove itself, other than the fact that it's gorgeous.
Sure.
It did take one of our servers about 2.5 hours to clean it because it was very dirty. But when she was cleaning it, she actually found a photo of the stove in somebody's home. We don't know whose house it is, but we just reframed it and thought, you know what, let's keep that on the stove so people can see that, that it did actually belong in a house at one point. And the other thing that we really love about this, which apparently isn't very common, is that it does have built-in salt and pepper shakers. Yeah, that are intact, and so super cool. And apparently very rare. Usually those get lost over time. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm very much the type that like I just have the salt and pepper sitting on
just
top,
sitting on
and then I have to be careful is it gonna burn or
It's very heavy. Adam and some of our kitchen crew are the ones that moved it up here and basically got it in place and said, it goes with the building. We're not moving that again.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
absolutely. And I really love the kind of the touch with the photo,
Yeah.
showing that like, yeah, it's the homey feel,
It is.
right?
Yep.
Like,
It
this is
actually
being
came
in a
out of
home.
somebody's house.
Mhm.
Yep.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Unless you have anything else to share on that,
Nope.
I think we'll move over to our
For
next
sure.
spot here. Just get more of an idea of things. So I love the spoons behind us here.
Yes.
What can you tell us about the spoons?
So spoon collection, apparently that was a big thing back in the day. When I was little, I remember polishing my one grandmother's spoons all the time.
Yeah.
It was like my favorite thing to do. She would tell me the story of where they all came from and all of that. So when both of my grandmothers passed away, I inherited their spoons. And then I thought, well, what do you do with spoons? So I thought, well, let's make some art. So, I mean, there's stories behind every single one of them. Most of them I don't remember the stories to,
Sure.
but they are all very unique. And we get a lot of comments where people say, I have spoons at home, do you want mine? And I say, no, I still have a box full, so I'm good.
Yeah, no, that's super
Yeah.
fun. Is there like any ones with like, is there a distinct story behind one of them?
So there's one, and I don't remember which frame it is on,
Sure.
but my mom's parents had a house in Palm Springs.
Okay.
And there's one specifically from Palm Springs. So
Right.
that one's got a little bit of a, and there's a couple medicine hat ones, that kind of thing as well. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I love that. And I just love that idea that people come up here and they're like, oh, I have spoons
I have
too.
spoons, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Can I give them to you?
Yeah.
Like, I love that.
When I told one lady, I said, oh no, like I'm good, I still have a box. And she said, don't be surprised if they're just here one day. And I said, okay. So,
I'm
yeah.
gonna tip you in spoons.
yes, exactly.
I would love to
The
get the
chandeliers.
backstory on the chandeliers.
Yeah, so these are the prototypes that the city used for the downtown gas lamps. They're very heavy. I believe when they actually made the gas lamps, they changed material because these were too heavy. But when I found them, they obviously weren't chandelier style. They had the poles and everything. And so when we started designing it and realized that, yes, we were able to open the floor up to the bar below, I said I wanted a really unique chandelier, and I talked to the electricians, and they realized how heavy they were, and they're very well enforced and reinforced into the ceiling, which is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're definitely a showstopper for sure. Yeah.
I love that. And again, just like that, tying into the city
Yep.
feel
Yep,
and all
very
these bits
much.
of history.
Yeah.
Has there been any instances of like people recognizing them?
Oh, yeah.
Or is it often just like the,
No.
oh, wow.
Yeah, lots of people go, these look like the ones that were downtown. And so then we get to tell the story. But it's also Medicine Hat, when you look at some of the overpasses and stuff that the city has built, you actually see the gas lamp, like it's kind of our symbol.
Right.
So being that we get to have that in the building is even better.
Nice.
Yeah.
On our way down here,
Yeah.
this actually wasn't open, is that right?
Correct. So when you came in the building, there was kind of a vestibule. You turned a corner, you went through another door to come up the stairs, and they turned here. And this was all filled in. This was bedrooms up here. And so when we looked at the building, Adam kind of said to me, it has a kitchen. And I went, that's great. It doesn't look like a restaurant.
Right.
So we wandered around for a while, and I said, okay, if you let me cut a hole in the floor and make open to below, I can do it. And he just looked at me like I was a little bit crazy. So I don't know that he actually understood the entire vision until probably we painted.
Right.
And then he went, okay, I get it. So yeah, so this was super fun. And anybody who had been in the building before, who's now come in now, is blown away because it looks nothing like it did before.
We're back. We're back with Adam. And yeah, we're going to take a quick gander at the kitchen here. So we'll just mosey on over there and take a look at the space on the way.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Forgive me, I've never worked in a kitchen.
No problem.
How many people would be running around in your
Yeah,
kitchen at
so on
one
like a
time?
busy weekend night, there would be myself and usually 3 cooks,
Oh, wow.
and then a dishwasher. And servers would come in and out because we don't have a separate sort of pass area. So they'll be coming into like this pathway that they're standing in right now to pick up food and to drop off plates and all of that kind of stuff. So there's usually 3 servers on the floor plus Jen, so it can get chaotic. There might be 7 or 8 bodies in here at any given time if there's a lot going on.
Yeah, so I imagine that's where that like kind of family mentality, taking care of each other becomes really important. Is
Yeah,
that what you say?
and be loud. That's one of the big rules in the kitchen. Like, you can't quietly sneak behind somebody. We're saying behind, we're saying sharp, we're saying hot.
Yeah.
We're yelling, basically, not at one another, but
No.
we're yelling to let people know that, hey, I'm right here and I've got a hot pan or I've got a knife in my hand. So I don't want you to turn around and get poked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I really appreciated in your interview with Mac was talking about how, like, you know, this is part of your identity now. Like,
Yeah.
it's time consuming, like all consuming. What does that mean for you being in this space so often? Like, does it feel like a second home? Or
Yeah. Honestly, sometimes it feels like a first home.
Oh, nice.
The running joke is that, like, I go home to sleep and shower. Like, I spend so much time here.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of it, is that it's become really comfortable and familiar, and I've learned to just exist in this space, which is amazing. And there's little pieces of our identities kind of tucked around. I know Jen gave a little bit of a tour and talked about some of the family connections and those kinds of things. So yeah, it's really important to us to make sure that, like, if we're going to spend this much time here, we better have fun doing it.
Yeah.
And then by extension, everybody else that's in here is going to have fun as well.
Yeah, I was about to say, I imagine that is maybe infectious.
Absolutely.
So that's amazing. I do think that is the time that we have.
Okay.
So for this segment, so I'm super glad that we got to peek in here.
Yeah, me too.
And see you in your element here, and see the rest of the space. Yeah. This has been the Windy City's finest on location here, and he's Mac. I'm Perry, and this is
Adam.
Thank you so much.
It's Mac and Perry in the place. Da-na-na-na. Mac and Perry
Go live to create.
Da-na-na-na. Mac and Perry invite you to stay.